Okay, welcome to this evening's spooky stream. Um, regarding the issues with the TV being smashed in, Castlevania's on hiatus for right now. The good news is we should get a new TV by Wednesday, I think, so maybe we could get back to what we're supposed to be doing this week. Um, maybe. So for tonight, we're going to take a look back at a ghost story. One of the, I want to argue, one of the very first, maybe, um, Pokemon related creepypastas, in more ways than one, and I'm going to find that a little bit interesting here. So buckle up, Homestuck, because we have the ROM. I actually have two ROMs now, in case the first one's really short. Um, but we're going to get to storytelling first, and that's going to take a minute. And you're really going to have to forgive me. I'm not feeling the best. I think I'm sick with something or other. Um, so it's going to be a lot of coughing, and it's going to be a lot of um, a lot of pauses and trying to get back to where my head was. Bullshit. So what I'm going to start off by saying, obviously, all of this is complete bullshit. If you've not heard of Pokemon Black or Pokemon Creepy Black, as it may be more commonly known now, it surrounds a lot of what surrounds it corresponds to um, suicides and a certain tone, and a lot of these things. I'm rapidly losing my train of thought. Give me a second here. I'm trying to figure out where I need to start with this. But obviously, none of it's true. I should start with that right there. And why I'm prefacing this is we're kind of entering this weird point with the internet. And I kind of realize I've known about it for a while, but I've kind of realized it now, especially tonight, trying to get everything put together for this stream, is that a lot of the sources for the things I used to look at 13 years ago to 15 years ago now are beginning to disappear. Um, which this is an urban legend. It kind of that time that span that time creates that distance between what was and what is probably adds to the mythos. So it could be pretty well interpreted. Um, it could be developed. And I'm going to show you kind of an example of that tonight about just how things morph. Um, so we're going to be looking at Pokemon Creepy Black. I've got a ROM. I've got maybe a second ROM. We've got a lot of news clippings to read. We've got some pictures to look at. So it's going to be kind of a slow stream. It's going to be a lot of me talking. I just realized I don't have a water bottle near me either. That's great. So I'm probably going to have to take a break at some point. I don't know how long the stream's going to be. I'm hoping not terribly long. I'm just not feeling it. Um, but I shouldn't I shouldn't fall asleep at least, maybe. So first off, let's take a look at what's known as the Lavender Town syndrome. So I've got two things here. Let me pull up the first one. And we're starting here because this is actually slightly before uh, the ROM hack, the whole concept of Pokemon Black appearing. Yeah, here it is. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, so that's gonna have to do. Um, Let me bring this down just slightly. Okay, so this is an image. So a lot of this, when I first discovered it, let me kind of put myself in the narrator's seat here and kind of explain my context and my experience. I used to peruse 4chan's VP boards and X boards way back in the day, like 2009, 2010-ish is where I figured out what 4chan was. Well, 2008 to 2010. And this was kind of an intermixing of those two boards. Um, I found the Pokemon Black creepypasta from, I think, VP. That's where it originated. Um, and it kind of paints. We're gonna kind of like come back around to this at the very end. Um, but this was a weird zeitgeist. I was talking about this with some of my buddies in the Discord. Um, this need, this compulsion by fans back in this time period to add kind of a mature spin to childhood or normally mundane kind of sanitized franchises. This was kind of the point, and when we had um, a lot of Mario, kind of gory Mario videos coming up with sprites and pixels. Sonic.exe popped up somewhere around this time period. There was Pokemon. And really, like, a lot of these things had always kind of had, like, how do I explain? This is really a hard thing. I'm not going to nail this tonight. I'm going to tell you that right now. This is, like, something you could write a dissertation on. Um, but it kind of combines the need to tell ghost stories with, I think, the need to, like, apply not not even like gory or edgy concepts to what is normally like a child franchise, but like to kind of take our reality and shove it onto something that seems not to function on the same laws of physics and the same rules of logic. Like Mario can fly around with a cape. He can grow big with a mushroom. Um, when he dies, he just kind of falls off the screen, and like, or when he steps on a Goomba, like, like just these words I'm saying, I'm probably triggering all these fucking edgy fan cartoons of like Mario stomping on Goomba, just blood spurting everywhere, because we would expect an animal to have blood within it, and we understand what happens to something when it goes squish, and it's like we have this compulsion to drag these things that kind of sit outside of our bounds of logic and reality and kind of pull them back in, if that makes any sense. Like, in not just the creepypastas, because this was a big thing showing up right now. Like, this was also kind of a really weird time when um, digital media mostly pertained to digital cameras and SD cards. And there hadn't yet been this whole big thing of being able to upload full videos. Like, YouTube was just brand fucking new, like, Facebook was brand new at this time. And, like, the capacity to put these giant full-length videos that you had on your digital camera onto a website, and actually the website had the bandwidth to support it, was kind of this new thing. And so we kind of had this era of like a golden era of found footage too. If you remember what Marble Hornets was, this is kind of where that came from. Um, and so we had this blend of this time period where fiction could kind of really encapsulate reality. You could have the idea that, yeah, someone found a bootleg cartridge and it's it's a black Pokemon cartridge and it was cursed, and like people would entertain these ideas, but yeah, but what if? That was like the big thing back then. The yeah, but what ifs. In addition to what was going on besides that stuff, Nuzlocks were beginning to become a thing because people were getting kind of tired of the concept at that point. We were like on Gen 5, and a lot of people were feeling the exhaustion, especially like the original players of Pokemon. Myself, and I've talked with a few other people my age, we all kind of felt like this exhaustion of playing Pokemon. We're kind of done with it at Gen 5. Um, and we're kind of like, we're sick of looking at this where like, Pokemon just faint and then they go get healed up and they're fighting, So that's where Nuzlocke began to kind of come in to like reapply the concepts of reality onto this child non-logical franchise. Um, and trying to think, lost the train of thoughts off the stage. So all of this kind of conglomerated into what we're looking at right now, kind of, and we'll come back to that. So what came before Pokemon Black was called the Lavender Town Syndrome. And basically, we're listening to Lavender Town audio right now. This is the soundtrack from Red and Blue. Now, the Red and Green, the Japanese versions, had an up-pitched tone on them. And I actually went and listened to it for a little bit before I decided to pull the audio for it for the video. And it is actually kind of irritating to listen to, especially on loop. Like, this is already a little bit grating. Like, unless you grew up with this and you get hit with a wave of nostalgia, this can get pretty fucking grating. The 4-bit, 4-channel, um, dink, dink, dinks. But it's even worse on the red and green version, so they actually, I think, changed it a little bit. But because they did that, there became this urban myth that there was another reason why they had changed things up. So what I want to kind of like postulate here is that excuse me, a lot of this precedes when I first kind of came in contact with it, which was 2010, is kind of the official date that everything gets stamped on. Really, this article says 2002, and I do actually have, I'm just going to pull it up now. So before we even start, let's go ahead and look at this. So, god damn it. Here's the Pokemon Black search interest in 2010. We can kind of see, this is our jumping off point. Now, you may immediately look at this chart and say, okay, what was going on in 2004? And then we can actually look at another chart for the Lavender Town Syndrome. If I have it saved in here. I thought I did. Yeah, here it is. And we see that, like Pokemon Black, there was already some search interest about 2 years ago, or 2 years after the date on this particular page, which is 2002. So, you can kind of take this with a grain of salt about the validity of this particular picture or this image, because I grabbed all of this off No Yumi, which is kind of a sad thing, but it's unfortunately like the repository for a lot of this stuff, because all the old archives are just fucking gone at this point. They're saved on private servers, they're client to client now. It's like, it's hard finding this stuff anymore. So I would postulate that, or I would speculate, especially with the infamous Porygon episode of the cartoon, that there were some rumors floating around pertaining to this song, or not this song, but the Lavender Town theme having some liminal effects on children, and that led to deaths. And that kind of snowballed from there, and then we have this GeoCity site. Again, all is completely made up. None of that was actually true. The epilepsy seizures did happen, though, so that was one thing. Okay, so we can go ahead and read this. It's kind of lengthy. A lot of this stuff is really lengthy. I'm going to warn you right now. It's going to be a lot of reading here, okay? Okay, so an article I found and saved from long ago, 2002 to be exact. God damn. It was hosted on a GeoCities site, and I included some pictures saved, which will be explained later. The site it links to seems to be broken. The article is kind of similar to the ones about Lavender Town music, which float around the chans, but it goes a little more depth about fascinating, creepy, untrue or not. So that's kind of a neat point. 4chan, I think, started in 2003, so that would actually. So he's talking about the Japanese chans right now, because it wasn't an English chan at that point. Okay, so in the red and green versions of Pokemon, video game for the Nintendo game system, there have been reported rumors circulating of Internet Lavender Town syndrome. The phenomena is described as an occurring when the player is within Lavender Town, a small area with a paranormal theme including ghosts, ghost-themed Pokemon, and a tower constructed for the purpose of housing deceased Pokemon. The music in the area, which was quickly changed for a second release, contains binaural beats which can induce psychological effects on the listener. These subtle beats comprise the so-called Lavender Town tone. For a description of the effects on Japanese children which play in the first edition, I shall quote the page with information on its subject. And then there's a link, which is probably gone by now. Readers should note that not all the information on the page is factually sound. History of pathology. It was not until spring and summer of 1996. Sorry, this is kind of hard to read for me. That cases can actually make this bigger. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to figure out. I'm reading this off the OBS preview, which is a bit jank. And I would like to. Oh no, I can make it. Okay, this is the big size. Okay, hold on. Crane my neck here. Okay, it was not until the spring-summer of 1996 that cases eventually become linked to the Lavender Town tone began to surface. The earliest record of the acknowledgement of the effects of the Lavender Town tone that the author could find came from an internal report made on June 1996 by the company Game Freak, which was then leaked by one of the former employees, Miss Satsumura. In it, the employee gave a list of names, dates, and symptoms, and records of children between ages 7 and 12 who had suffered various medical problems as a result of playing Pocket Monsters Red and Green. Okay, so April 2nd, 1996, 11-year-old, obstructive sleep apnea, severe migraines, orthorhgia, tinnitus, attacked a police officer near a government building and was killed. May 23rd, 1996, 12-year-old, with general irritability, insomnia, addiction to video games, nosebleeds, developed into violent streaks against others and was eventually killed, himself. April 27th, 1996, 11, cluster headaches, irritability, self-harmed, and carved the kanji symbols for Empire into his wrists, then died. March 4th, 1996, 7-year-old, migraine, sluggish and slow behavior, unresponsiveness, developed into deafness, went missing, body discovered beside road, April 20th, 1996. Hundreds of Japanese children fell victim to these effects, many of them committing suicide eventually. As you can see, these binaural beats led to many problems, including symptoms of brain hemorrhaging and violent action against others. The ghost animation. The article mentions a ghost animation which appears throughout the tower. It supposedly displays static pictures of screaming faces, the Grim Reaper, and photographs of corpses along with the standard ghost model itself. While the rest of the paragraph itself is fiction, no such Games Commission Board ever held the programmers on trial, there is some truth behind the ghost animation. and the recalled first set edition of the games, in which Lavender Town was present, hidden in the game's code was unnamed Pokemon only identified as assigned number 731. The Pokemon can only be found in two places, one depicted in Figure 1 and Route 7. The 31st tile of grass, which is boxed in red in the picture, has a 100% chance of entering a battle with Pokemon 731. It is unknown whether due to the game's code itself or was purposely put there by the programmers. Another refinement is using Miss No Glitch. Miss No Glitch, okay. Old man, so what's the old man glitch? I'm going to skip over that. Okay, Pokemon itself is strange in nature. It does indeed use the ghost sprite along with some flashing static. However, about 20 frames in, it becomes a flashing series of low-quality pictures. Two of the clearest ones have been included, figures 2, 3, and 4. Appears to be a man standing over a table with something hard to identify. A corpse, perhaps, rests. He has in his hands an unknown object, also standing over the table that may be a surgical mask over his mouth. Strengthening the theory that the body is in frame, Figure 3 appears to be low resolution image of a building, the significance of which will be explained later. Figure 4 is about the strangest. It's an Imperial Japanese flag with two kanji figures, Emperor, bottom right corner. Other frames the animation can be made out, including more images of doctors' corpses and buildings. The theme of Lavender plays the whole time they're in battle, accelerated 3 times. If one attempts to catch the Pokemon, the game will freeze. After restarting, the title screen of the game will be modified, displaying only static and the tonal accelerated blistering pace of 10's time. What's the purpose of Pokemon? What's the significance of 731 with binaural beats comprising Lavender Town tone inserted into music on purpose? Okay. The staff of Game Freak. Game Freak, a Japanese video game developer founded in 1989 by Satoshi Teriji, created Pokemon series. Shin Nakamura, who was married Satsumura with a 6-year-old Ken Nakamura, worked there as a programmer. Miss Maru, who leaked the list of children affected by Lavender Town, was trained in musical skills and change, and was in charge of sound design. In order to gather more information on the subject, I traveled to Japan to interview Miss Maru, who now lives in a small town in the Kamikawa district of Hokkaido Prefecture. Initially unwilling to answer my questions, she finally relented and gave me some information I desired. The reason she had leaked the list of children was partially due to personal guilt. Mr. Nakamura had asked to tweak the Lavender Town theme. Miss Maru accepted, and Mr. Nakamura added the tone. Telling Miss Maru he decided that it was fine as it was and did not add anything. Because the tone was not audible for those of the age of 12, Miss Maru believed Mr. Nakamura. In the middle of the night after the game was released, Mr. Nakamura committed suicide in Aokigahara Forest by hanging himself on a tree, leaving a letter addressed to Miss Maru below him. Their son Ken was killed in an automobile accident down the road from their house, naked, with several cracked ribs, frothing at the mouth, and heavily bleeding from his nose due to brain hemorrhage. The two kanji symbols for Emperor were also carved into his chest. The story that Mr. Maru told me was while Ken was sleeping, Mr. Nakamura put the headphones on his son and played the Lavender Town tone, then left. Eventually the son woke up and, due to the effects of the tone, cut the symbols into himself with a kitchen knife and then attempted to attack the passengers of a nearby car. Frightened, they ran over him and drove off. Unfortunately, her story could not be accepted by police, although a bloody kitchen knife was present in his bedroom. Miss Maru agreed to allow me to revealing passage from Mr. Maru's letter, with the rest omitted on personal reasons. It's as follows. To Sato, section omitted. Tonight is the eve of a new era for Japan, a new empire which I am responsible. I cannot, however, linger to see my creation unfold within the coming months. Visions of my father's work haunt me. Brief section omitted. Our dear Ken will be the first martyr for our second great imperial Japanese nation. Rest of the letter omitted. Passage makes it obvious that Mr. Nakamura's goal was to create a second great imperial Japan nation by using the newly released Pokemon games. He hoped to have the Lavender tone, which caused violence against the victims and others, would turn all of the children who purchased the game into warriors for the Emperor. But what explains pictures of the ghost animation and what was his father's work? Okay, Unit 731. Unit 731 was a secretive Japanese army under the Empire of Japan during World War II. Oh my god, gotta cough again. There. It was dedicated to biological and chemical research, also diving into human experimentation. It is infamous for many war crimes, consists of several divisions. There's the divisions, I'm not going to read all those. Under the Division 4, worked Hashu Nakamura, the father of Shin Nakamura, according to Mr. Maru. He was a very conservative man, had an imperial flag on his wall, and followed all traditions. He was stuck in the former half of the century. If we delve further in the records, we find that Hashu Nakamura worked for Division 4. He held the title of Director of Experimentation relating to auditorial engineering. We can only speculate what responsible for titles held. Engineered there between screams of the vivisected patients and smoke bodies. Okay. Now recall figures 2 and 3. As the figure 2 pictured a man in a surgical mask. That was Hanshu himself. Figure 3 looks similar to the entrance of the facility. How nice to take a picture of a secret facility, huh? Okay, the effects themselves were certainly not as great as Mr. Nakamura had hoped. There was no second Japanese empire, but only a few hundred Japanese children who died in fits of insane rage against government officials and themselves. He was responsible for. This is mainly thanks to the quick actions of Miss Maru and Game Freak at removing the tone and the secret code and images which Mr. Nakamura implemented into the COM segment specifically. A quiet and fast recall of Nintendo was a contributing factor. Pokemon continues to be a popular worldwide. Blah, 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 blah. I'd like to thank Ms. Maru with the cats. Working in store clerk. Ms. Maru passed away of leukemia May 3rd, 2001. This page is now dedicated to her. She rests in peace. Okay. And that's it. So that's the origin, or supposed origin, of the Lavender Town tone. And hide that. So that's one of the guys here. Oh, you know what? Hold on. Yeah, hide that. Let's look at the pictures really quick. So this is Route 7, and apparently that little box right there is where you can encounter the thing. We have a teeny tiny picture of a dude. We have a building. Looks kind of like a church, honestly. In fact, I think that is a church, honestly. And then, of course, we have the Japanese flag. I'll be completely honest. I can't read kanji, but I know it has a lot to do with little lines and places. I probably could not discern what the fuck that's supposed to mean. Just looking at it, and you think about, like, I don't know, not the best thought out thing. You know, it's a good read. So we have a few things to look at. I have another page, and the rest of this I pulled straight from this was pulled from Supposedly this is a creepypasta, but this is pulled from Know You Mean. And apparently this is the first paste of the pasta. And apparently it's the police report. Okay. So during the first few days of the release of Pokemon Red in Japan back in February 27, 1996, a peak of deaths appeared when the age group 20 or 10 to 15. The children were usually found dead by suicide, usually hanging or jumping from heights. However, some were more odd. Few cases recorded children began sawing off their limbs, others sticking their faces inside ovens, choking themselves with their own fists, and shoving their arms down their own throat. A few children who were saved before killing themselves showed sporadic behavior, and when asked why they were going to hurt themselves, only answered in the chaotic screams and scratched their own eyes. When showed what seemed to be a connection to this attitude, the Game Boy, they had no response. When combining the power with either Pokemon Red or Green, the screams would continue and they would do their best to leave the room it was located in. This confirmed the authorities' suspicion that the game somehow had a connection to these children and the deaths. It was a strange case because many children who had the same games did not show this behavior, but only a few. The police had no choice but to pursue this, and they had no other leads. Collecting all the cartridges these children purchased, they kept them sealed away as strong evidence to look over later. They decided the first thing they would do was talk to the programmers themselves. The first person they met with was the director of the original game, Satoshi Tajiri. When told about the deaths from his games, he's slightly uneasy, but admitted he knew nothing. He led them to the main programmers of the games, the people responsible for content. Detectives met Takanori Uda, one of the main programmers of the game. Unlike Satoshi, he didn't seem uneasy, but very kept, explaining that it was impossible to use something like a game to affect such deaths, also bringing up the point that not all children were affected. He brushed it off as some kind of odd coincidence of mass hysteria. It seems like he was hiding something, wasn't giving it away. Finally, he said something interesting. Takanori had heard a rumor going around that some musical lavender town was the locations of the game caused the children to get ill. Only a rumor, yada yada. He directed the detectives to Junichi Masuda, the music composer of that series. Masuda had also heard of these rumors, but again told police they had no evidence. His music was the cause. Even to prove a point, he played the exact song for the game completely through, with no effect to anyone, the detectives, nor Masuda himself, feeling anything different or odd. Although they still had their suspicions, Masuda of the Lavender town, they seemed to reach that dead end. Going back to the cartridge they had seized from the homes of children, they decided to take a slightly more direct look at the games. They knew that these games were that they gave the children ill effects, so they took extreme caution, popping the cartridge and turning the console on. The game screen booted, the title screen appeared, the option continue, creating a save appeared. When chose to continue, the stats of the game appeared. They saw the names of the children who would play, usually Red or some simple name. However, interesting thing was the time played and the number of Pokemon they own. On every game, the time was low, very low, and all of them had only a single Pokemon in the inventory. They came to a stunning reality. There could not have been the music from Lavender Town that caused such ill effects to the children, since it was impossible to reach that part of the game in such a small amount of time with only one Pokemon in the inventory. This brought them to the conclusion that something early in the game had been the cause. If it wasn't the music nor the title screen, it had to be something within the first few minutes of the game itself. They had no choice but to turn off the game and go back to the programmers. Asking for a list of all the programmers from Takanori, they found, surprisingly, that one of the programmers had committed suicide shortly after the game was released. His name was Chiro Mura, a very obscure programmer who had provided very little for the game. Even more interestingly, he had requested his name did not appear in the credits for the game, so it was not. Looking over the other evidence of Chiro's apartment, they found many notes written in bold marker, most crumpled or marked out, making it very difficult to read. A few words they could find in the mess was "Do not enter, watch out, come follow me," in bold. The detectives were unsure what these meant, but knew they had to have a connection. Further searching, they discovered Chiro was good friends with one of the map designers, Koji Nishino, and this was probably the only reason Chiro had given a part in making the game. Koji Nishino since the release of the game, had locked himself in his apartment, barely leaving in the dark of night to fetch anything he might need. He told his friends and family he was in mourning for his dear friend Shiro, but they didn't believe this, since Messina locked himself up the day the game was put on stores, a few days before Shiro killed himself. It was troubling, but the authorities finally persuaded Messina to sit down and speak with them. He looked as if he hadn't slept in days, dark rings under his eyes. He stunk. His nails had grown black and his hair greasy, sticking to his forehead and neck. He spoke in stutters and murmurs, but at least he had something to say. When asked if he knew anything about the children who had died after exposure of the game, and if there's any connection to the game, he answered them seemingly carefully, choosing words thoughtfully before answering. He told them that his friend Shiro had an interesting idea within the game, something that he wanted to try since he heard the project was starting. The student himself knew Takanori, the director and main programmer for a long time, and he could easily get a mediocre programmer in on the project with a little persuasion. It seemed Shiro had convinced Nacino to get him in on the project, and it worked. Detectives knew they were onto something. This unknown, obscure programmer, Shiro, who had something to do with something. Yeah, sorry. They asked what Shiro's idea was when he wanted so badly to have a part make a children's game. Nacino told him that Shiro never told him much about it, other than a few details every now and then. He wanted to insert a special Pokemon in the game, one that's completely different from all the others. It would serve as an extra kind of out-of-place thrill for a player. It wasn't, however, missing though. It couldn't be. With the gameplay time recorded on cartridge, it was impossible for children to have met that Pokemon. That's also okay. Interesting. We'll get to that. Nacino, through the entire conversation, seemed to break down even more with every question. The detectives pushed him more and more, searching through his mind for any scrap of knowledge of the game and Shiro's intentions. It was when they asked about the note found in Shiro's home that he snapped. From under the couch, Nacino was sitting. He whipped out a pistol, pointed it straight at the police, while backing away a few steps. Then, just as quickly, he brought the pistol to his face. "Don't follow me," he muttered. Stuck the pistol in his mouth, pulled the triggers, too quick, yada yada yada. He killed himself, being slightly differently what was written on one of Shiro's papers. It seemed all the leads finally died. The team who created this original game was splitting up, becoming harder to find. It was as if they were keeping a secret. The police finally managed to talk to anyone who had parts in the game, even obscure characters or designers and monsters designers. It seemed like they had nothing of interest to say. Most of them didn't even know Shiro, and the few who did only saw him once or twice working on the game itself. Throughout all of this, only confirmation they had that Shiro was indeed the one who worked on the very later parts of the game. It had been a couple months after he radio shot suicide, Jesus, and the death rate had dropped dramatically. It seemed that the game was no longer giving ill effects to any children. Callback to the game was that the plan was cancelled. Since it seemed the game was no longer harming any children, and began to think about maybe Takanori was right, and it was all just a very odd coincidence of mass hysteria until they received the letter. Man, it's a lot. It was given one of the detectives himself. We've been reading for 40 minutes, goddamn. Quite directly out of the street. It was a woman who had given him the note. A very frail, thin, sick-looking thing. She gave him the letter quickly, telling him it was something he needed to see, and without waiting for a response or another word, she disappeared into the crowd. Written by Chiro himself, but wasn't found in his apartment. They thoroughly searched to clear out the place. Start off with formal hello, regards to family. As the letter continued, the handwriting seemed to grow more jittery. He talked about a glorious idea he had, a way of programming something unseen in the game before. He said it would certainly revolutionize not only the games industry, but everyone. He went on to say there was a very simple procedure in the program to program this idea into the game. He did not even have to add any form of programming, but could use what's already given in the game itself. This would, the detectives agreed, making it possible to notice obscurities, yada yada yada. But butlers, no goodbye, no hi to the family, no right back. This was the nail in the coffin for the detectives. They had no more suspicions about the cause. Chiro had programmed something into the early parts of the game, something maddening, to further increase his streak of success. I discovered that the program team had worked in pairs. Even Chiro himself had worked with another programmer, Sasuke Tamada. If anyone knew what the secret of this game was, Sasuke Tamada was the man. They learned Sasuke had provided a lot of the program of the game, and seemed to be an average good guy and worker. He used to land to his home. The only thing from this conversation made was found a voice recorder sitting on the table in front of the two detectives assigned to talk to Sasuke. What follows is the unedited recording. Sasuke Tamada, what part did you have in the game's Pokemon Red and Green? I was a programmer. That's all. Am I right in knowing that the programmers working on the game worked in teams? Yes, you'd be right. And your partner was Chiro Mura. That was his name. Chiro Mura. Silence. It seems like the detectives went easy about this man. Could you tell us if Mura ever acted strangely at all, like any particular behaviors you observed working with him? I didn't know him very well, really. We didn't meet up frequently, only once in a while to trade data, or when the entire group was called up for a meeting. That's the only times I ever saw him. He acted normal as far as I could tell. He was a short man, and I think this affected his consciousness. He acted weaker than other men I met. He was willing to do a lot for gain recognition, this I know. I think he was a very weak man. I think he wanted to prove himself regardless of the point. I think he wanted to make himself known for something special, something that would make people forget about the way he looked and pay attention to his powerful mind that lay inside his skull. Fortunately for him, he didn't have much of a mind to back up that reasoning. Why would you say that? Well, it's a simple truth. He was nothing special, even if he wanted to believe so. You can't become greatness, even if you believe it. It's impossible. Somehow I think Chiro knew this, somewhere deep inside, he knew it. Can you tell us what Chiro's part in this game was? What did he work on exactly? Nothing important. He worked on obscure parts at the beginning of the game. It was Oak's part to be exact. He worked on some of the Oak's parts when he's seen first, you see. What else? Push the police. They could hear Sasuke's voice. They knew something. We know you know about the children and the deaths. We know it was Chiro who did it. He programmed something in the game. What are you implying? We're implying that since you're his partner, if you're hiding something from us, then you could just be as much responsible for the children's death as Chiro is himself. You can't prove anything. Tell us what Chiro did to the game. What I told him to. You want to know, huh? You want to know, eh? You want to know what it's all about? Chiro was an idiot. He would do anything for a bit of attention, anything at all. He couldn't program with a shit either. The one thing he could do, however, was be manipulative. You could tell him what to do and he'd do it. He wouldn't even question it. He'd do it. Just to hear that thank you when you received the final product was his reason. That's all he wanted. 2 clicks of the guns could be heard. I could control him flawlessly. He was a lot like Takanori. Of course, none of you knew this. I was the one who brought out the idea of the game, the idea of the entire operation. I just told the fellow what to do. He followed me without a doubt. He knows nothing, just like Chiro. Sound when the opening, don't move or shoot. Let me tell you about the mechanic of the game. Consider it a hint, alright? If you walk around the grassy area, your Alpha Pokemon will appear, and you'll have a chance to go into battle with it. It's a necessary part of the game, see? Step away the window. At the start of the game, You have to walk in a grassy area where Oak appears and you receive your first Pokemon. Understand me, under normal circumstances, it was programmed that even if you're in a grassy area, no Pokemon will spawn. I made it different. I manipulated Chiro, told him what to put in the program, and gave him all the instructions on how to do it. He did it flawlessly. It's rare, but it can happen. Stepping into that grass can spawn. We don't want to shoot. Shoot me. Shoot me. Shoot me. He was dumb as Churro was. Once he found the truth, he had to end it. It was his fault, after all. He shot himself because of it. You're so determined to finish that case of yours. If you want to know, play the damn game yourself. Roll the wheel, who knows? Maybe you'll learn the secret for yourself. A shot can be heard, loud enough to distort the audio. Sound of screaming, murmuring can be heard. The recorder was on, crashed. Ear-shattering distortion, silence. Then laughing. Sasuke was laughing. Words, come follow me, then nothing. The recorder continued until the tape ran out. There was nothing else on it. Police arrived at the scene quickly. Due to their horror, they discovered Sasuke and the detective dead. They'd all been shot, but not after struggling. The detectives had been shot multiple times, at least 10 each, before dying. Being shot between their eyes. Sasuke himself had died of 2 shots to his chest, straight through the heart. The game was causing a massacre. At least 100 children were dead. Nacino, the unexpected Fred dead. Chiro, the manipulatory dead. The detectives dead. Everyone dead. Fucking dead. And now the creator caused this atrocity dead. This game was stretching far over its original intentions. It was killing anyone who got involved. Okay. The lead detective had decided it was time to put this case away. The man committed the crime was dead, so there was no longer any reason to continue the case. All evidence, cartridges, all notes, locked away, kept in the dark, just belong, tiny things, small conversations every now and then. It was right away. The case is on memory, leaked in minds from experience to hand. 10 years passed. 2006 was the date. Lead detective, man who locked away the original evidence, was reminded the awful event occurred. No longer with the force, he still had the access to files. He helped when he could. A reminder of the event caused him to look back, to open the sealed containers. A lot of evidence, read through the letters, looked at the notes. Remember the woman who had appeared to him in the street that day, had the letter. Wondered who she was. Perhaps Chiyo's mother, maybe Sasuke's. Too late for any of this. Sealing the container again. He saw a second one directly behind it, pulling it out. He read the note. The top said evidence. Inside, looking inside, he found container with exactly 104 red and green cartridges. Each one in perfect condition, untouched since the day they last checked them 10 years ago. Reached in and pulled one out. Pokemon Man hadn't seen one in a long time. He didn't know what he thought next, but he reached in his desk and pulled out an old Game Boy, because everyone's got one of those in their desk at work. He received it long ago, and it still worked. It was his son's, but he had died a few years ago. His wife was gone too. Popping in title screen. Tanaka, that was the child's name, the one who played it first. He was probably dead along with the others. Pressed new game. Started a new game. It was normal, average. Talked to his mother, went outside, walked through the grass. In his head, he could hear Sasuke's words, even though he was not there, or even though he'd never seen the man in his life. He could still hear him, come follow me. Getting closer and closer, only a step away. Roll the wheel, who knows, maybe you'll learn a secret for yourself. He entered the grass. The screen at first did nothing at all. Just sat there, saw the detective, completely frozen, as if time had stopped. The screen went black, then lit up again, the iconic green background with the black text appearing. Detective's weary eyes grew wide. He couldn't help but read. In front of him, come follow me, come follow me. I miss you, Dad. I miss you, my husband. I miss you so much. Tears formed in his eyes, falling down his cheeks. Screens and screens of text appeared as he rapidly clicked the A button to continue. It was his wife and his child there, speaking to him, calling him, crying with him. They wanted to see him, loved him. Love you too, he muttered. Come follow me, become new again. We want to see you and hold you with ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Don't stay away, you can see us too. Miss you, come follow me. We love you. Black screen. The screen lit up, and Oak was leading him out of the grass. Come follow me, said Oak. Oh, shouted the man, dropping the gamma before he quickly fell forward, reaching for it, bringing a screen to his face. Bring them back to me. Again, as usual. My wife, my child, listen to me, bring them back to me. I said. Voices, he heard voices, hundreds of voices. He turned around in the seats, looking behind him, and standing in a small room with children. Many children. Some had no eyes, some had rings on their throats, some were burned or across their bodies, so they were screaming, reaching toward him. Bring back my mommy, bring back my daddy, bring back my pet. They all screamed, reaching for the game. The mouths that gave a heart pain. Don't want to see them go away. Bring them back to me, bring them back to me. No, it's mine. My family is here. Don't touch it. Come follow me. Come follow me. Gonna kind of cut through most of this. Ba 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 ba. This is like a Junto Ito novel. Old gun. Pull the trigger, bang, brains everywhere. Okay. Final murder. Never part of the case. Person carried 104 cartridges away, burned them all, making sure not a single one survived. They were taught no more. The code was set aside and passed on to other language versions of the game. You have an old Pokemon game, you place the cartridge in the back of the classic Game Boy, turn it on, and roll the wheel. Who knows? You might learn the secret yourself. Fuck. Love to know how many fucking words that was. Okay. So that's the gist of the Lavender Town tone thing. Let's go ahead and put that away. Let's look at some pictures that I have. So the first, oh wait, no, hold on, I'm missing something. Hold on. We need to switch, I think, to the other one. Yeah, this one. A little bit more to read. Okay, so there are 3 ghosts. Now, this stuff is interesting. And we're going to get to that in a second. So there is the white hand, the ghost animation, and the buried alive. So if we hide this for a second, there's the burning ghost, there's the buried alive, and then I can pull up, swap this one out. I can. Here it is. Here's the white hand. Oh, he's little. Actually, I kind of like that better. There we go. Boy, I wonder if I could have gotten the transparency later for this guy. Let me fuck with him real quick. Got too much shit. I don't even know. I don't know. Okay. Never mind. So we've got the burning, the ghost, we've got the buried alive, we've got the white. So those are kind of the things we're looking at here, right? So we've got a short description of each one. So known as the code, in the code is whitehand.gif. .gif is funny. This was scripted to appear as a Pokemon on the 3rd floor of the Lavender Tower. Is divided into 4 separate animations: introduction and idle to attacks. These attacks are unknown, but they're listed simply as Fist and Brutal. While viewing the animation has been proven to be hazardous, viewing the frames is fine. White hands depicted as a shriveled, slightly decayed hand, with surprising attention to detail, flesh peeling back. The first attack is the hand balling up a fist and swinging forward. Brutal animation is missing several frames. The hand seems open, then cuts out. After a few seconds, it reappears closed again. No record has been found of these missing frames. Okay, ghost animation. Haunting.swf. Like .gif and .swf, like, I don't think those were those were file formats really used back in '96. So, yeah. Like, again, I'm not trying to disprove this because obviously it's all bullshit, but like, a lot of the sensibilities were being applied here. That's what the point I'm trying to make here is that, like, we're using .swf and .gif because those are in file formats we know today, but may not have been used in the assembly language that was used to put Pokemon in the cartridge, like that kind of thing. So it's kind of funny to see that retroactive application. Intended place in several areas throughout the tower, including the center of the path, second floor. However, players cannot interact with it, leaving many to believe it was intended as a background feature. The ghost animation of one must be viewed in individual frames, comprised of 59 or 59 frames in total. However, after extraction, around half of these frames have been revealed to be the standard ghost model used in Pocket Monsters. Around a quarter of the remaining frames are comprised of static, producing fading effects. However, interspersed with these bursts of static are several frames with screaming faces, along with images of a skeleton man in a cloak, a plus-size Beacon Reaper, and several killed corpses. I'm glad they're killed and not alive corpses. Like, meaning behind these are unknown. My screen on. While under oath for these Video Game Commission Board, lead programmer Hasashi Sogabe testified as to having no knowledge as to where these images surfaced. Of all the phenomena associated with LTS, the animations most speculated on. In his thesis, Video Games and Manipulation in Mind, Dr. Jackson Turner argued that images were intentionally placed due to their brief time appearing on screen. The graphic nature of the frames, Turner theorized that these were meant to subliminally influence players. Alright. Once referred to as the Berryman script, the Buried Alive model was found on the final story of the Pokemon Tower and was now replaced with the Marowak Ghost. According to the scripts assigned to it, the Buried Alive model was intended to be the boss of the tower once reaching that floor. Conversation would take place. You're here, I'm trapped, I'm lonely, so very lonely, won't you join me? After that battle initiated, and once in the battle view, the Buried Alive model appears via decaying human corpse attempting to crawl out of the ground. It's been programmed to have two white hands, a Gengar, and a Muk. Okay. Strangely enough, the protocol of Buried Alive's actions after it was defeated was not written. In the case it was defeating him, the game would freeze. A specific ending would have written by an unknown programmer upon losing the battle. In this ending, Buried Alive is stayed finally fresh meat, followed by several lines of gibberish. He was to have then dragged the player into the ground surrounding him. The scene would finish with the game over screen. However, in some background, an image of Buried Alive character devouring the player was to have been shown. Especially strange are the protocols after the scene. Cartridge was to download this image from a small internal memory contained in the Game Boy. Really. Overriding the title screen was normally accompanied the game turning on. Okay. Instead, whenever it was started, the player would view this image as the sound file static mesh.wave was played, intended for this effect. Okay. So, that was the three. Now a few little interesting tidbits for the end here. Note on Berryman Game Over. So this was the note on the picture for the Berryman Game Over. This is what happens to you when you lose the Berryman. Berryman can be found on top of a Pokemon Tower. He's placed script for some reasons. Marowak goes down instead. If you win, the game crashes. If you lose, the game crashes every time you open it. This image is shown. It's bad on so many levels. So, let me show the picture real quick. I can't make shit out of it, honestly. Like, I thought I had a picture in front. Didn't I? Yeah, I'll use this one. So here's the loss. And it's pretty fucking hard to make out, honestly. Like, I look at this and all I can see, there's the player, obviously. You can see that, but I don't really see devouring here. Like, I see the face up here. It looks like that stupid fish um, with the antenna. It's been used as a reaction image for like fucking centuries now, so I don't know. That's the loss image. And then the last note I have at the bottom here um, is that all of these images were uploaded in 2010 to whatever image host. I think it was Pinterest or something. ULOs was uploaded in 2013. Why this is interesting is because on the Know You Mean page, because citing your sources is important, a lot of the page has sources pertaining to everything except for this stuff. These three new little sprites, no, there's no sources cited, which probably means someone just made it the fuck up and added it on to the mythos. So there's an example of the mythos developing a little bit more throughout the years. So that wraps up Lavender Town. Now we can talk about Pokemon Black. We can get into that goddamn can of worms. And maybe we'll actually play the game tonight. Who the fuck knows? Okay, so we've kind of established that most of this probably pertains to a bunch of scuttlebutt from GeoCities and much older websites that aren't really around anymore, forums and all of that. So this is the original image, and these things would go around a lot. This is what we would share on 4chan. It's usually just like a picture of someone had written something and then taken a picture of it. And they're usually really long, and sometimes you get spooky ones with something at the bottom, or it was a GIF and you didn't notice until like a jump scare got you. Something like that. So, this says, I'm what you'd call a collector of bootleg Pokemon games, Pokemon Diamond and Jade, Chaos Black, etc. Hold on, this is not sized properly. There. It's amazing the frequency which you can find them at pawn shops, Goodwill, etc. and so forth. They're generally fun, even if they're unplayable, which they often are. The mistranslations of poor quality make them unconditionally humorous, or unintentionally humorous. I've been able to find most of the ones that I've played online, but there are some I haven't seen any mention of that I bought at a flea market about a few years ago. Here's a picture of the cartridge, in case anyone recognizes it. Unfortunately, when I moved 2 years ago, I lost the game, so I don't have any screen caps, conveniently. The game starts with familiar Nintendo and Nidorino and Gengar. Intro of the red and blue version, press start screen, had been altered. Red was there, but the Pokemon did not cycle through. It also said black version of the Pokemon logo. Upon selecting new game, the game stated that Pokemon Oak's speech, and quickly became evident that the game was essentially Pokemon Red version. Selecting your starter, if you looked at your Pokemon, you had, in addition to whatever your starter was, another Pokemon Ghost. The Pokemon was level 1. It was a sprite of the Ghost they encountered in Lavender Town before the Silph and had one attack, Curse. I know that there is a real move named Curse, but this attack did not exist in Generation 1, so it appears it was hacked in. Defending Pokemon was able to attack Ghost, who simply stated too scared to move. Move Curse was used in battle. The screen would turn to black. The cry of defending Pokemon would be heard. And then, but distorted. Played much lower pitch than normal. The battle screen would then appear, and the defending Pokemon would not be gone. If used against a trainer, the Pokeballs remaining in the Pokemon would appear in the corner. It would have one fewer. The implication was that the Pokemon had died. What's even stranger about that, after defeating the trainer and seeing, Red received money, battle commands appear again, select run, the battle would end, as it normally does, and you can interact. Then you could also select Curse upon returning to the overworld. The trainer sprite would be gone. After leaving and re-entering the area, the spot would have replaced with a tombstone like the ones at Lavender Town. The move Curse was not usable in all instances. It would fail against ghost Pokemon. It would also fail if used against trainers that you would have to face again, such as your rival at Giovanni. It was usable in your final battle against them. I found the gimmick of the game with this. I figured this was the gimmick of the game, allowing you to use previously uncatchable ghost Pokemon because the curse made it easy. I got through the whole adventure. Game changed quite a bit after defeating the Elite Four, entering the Hall of Fame, which consisted of ghosts and a couple of very underleveled Pokemon. The screen cuts to black. A box appeared with the words, "Many years later." Then it cuts to Lavender Town. An old man is standing looking at a tombstone. You then realize that it was your character. The man moved at only half your normal walking speed. You no longer had any Pokemon with you, not even Ghost, who was up until that point impossible to remove from your party. The overworld was entirely empty, no people at all the tombstones. Trainers used Cursed on. You could go pretty much anywhere in the overworld at that point, though your movement was limited by the fact that you had no Pokemon to use HMs. Regardless of where you went, the musical Lavender Town continued on an infinite loop. After wandering for a while, I found that you could go through Digley's Cave. One of the cuttable bushes normally blocked your path no longer existed, allowing you to advance to enter the Pallet Town. Upon entering the house, going to the next part, restart the game, the screen would cut to black. The sprite of Caterpie appeared and then replaced by Weedle, then a Pidgey. I soon realized that these were Pokemon. As the Pokemon progressed from Rattata to Blastoise, they were all of the Pokemon that I had used Cursed on. After the end of my rival's team, a youngster appeared, then a bug catcher. These were the trainers I cursed. Throughout the sequence, the Lavender Town music was playing. It was slowly decreasing in pitch. And then you had your rival appear on screen. A little more than a demonic rumble. Another cut to black. A few moments later, the battle screen suddenly appears. Your trainer sprite is nowhere. It's now that of an old man. Same one who taught you how to catch Pokemon in Radiant City. Ghost Pokemon appears on the side. Along with Ghost wants to fight. You couldn't use items, you had no Pokemon. You tried to run. The only option was to fight. Using fight would eventually cause you to struggle. Didn't affect Ghost. Just chip your own HP. Ghost turn to attack. It would just use ellipses. Eventually, when your HP reaches a critical point, it would use Curse. The screen cuts to black for a final time. Regardless of the buttons you press, you're permanently stuck in this black screen. At that point, the only thing you could do is turn the Game Boy off. We played a new game. That's the only option. The game had erased the file. I played through a hacked game many years ago. Many times, and every time the game ended with the sequence. Several times I didn't use Ghost at all, though he was impossible to remove from the party. It did not show any Pokemon or trainers in a cinematic battle with the Ghost. I'm not sure what the motives were behind the creators of the hack. It wasn't distributed. It presumably about to gain. It seems he was trying to send a message. Well, it seems I received the message. I'm not really sure what it is. Eventually, the inevitability of death, the Pokemon, the pointlessness of it all. Perhaps he was trying to. Fuck, I can't read that. Morbidly inject death and darkness into a children's game regardless. The children's game, it made me think, and he made me cry. The end. Okay, so that's the original Creepypasta. Now, what you can pull from that, number one, is that it takes place in Lavender Town, but it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with the Lavender Town tone. It seems to be an entirely separate. Oh, hey, man. You just missed an hour of fucking exposition on Creepypastas. It seemed to be like a separate thing. But the really cool thing, and the thing I appreciate about that giant-ass fucking thing I read to you, was that it was detailed enough that people were able to make ROM hacks off of it. And as far as I can tell, there were 3. I have 2, and I think one is just a demo that never went anywhere. I also covered the Lavender Town one, too. I might try that demo you sent me. Maybe. I don't remember if this is a long game or not. It really honestly depends on if they did the entire thing or just like cut out the meaty bits. I remember playing this a while back, but I'm not sure what I played, to be honest with you. Alright, so get the window capture up here.